Good afternoon. Welcome to Good Guys Sports. I'm Jackson Gerke, alongside of our co-hosts, the two Blakes and Mike Roby, and myself. I'm myself, Jackson Gerke, and we will start us off with the NFL scouting combine happening right now as we speak. We'll get the latest on MLB spring training, and then we'll talk with talk the latest on other topics as well. We'll dive into all of that a little later, but what I want to start off with first that everyone's talking about lately is the court storming in college basketball. We have seen this happen for like the third or fourth time in a row. And the latest incident we have reported was a Duke player getting injured by one of the Wake Forest fans just storming the court, just getting into it on the crowd, which to me is not right. And I feel like I should be one of those people that really says this, but you go back to the Caitlin Clark incident, which that in the Iowa game, and then before that, against they were on the road against Ohio State fans just were going right at her, which is really not smart for those fans of how they really deserved it, even though it's even though fans are just fans, they just really want to witness the history of it of the sport, and they were just having a great time and just getting too excited. But I just feel that they needed to double up security and get police officers involved or put some handcuffs on one of those fans and just deserve better what they do. So in my case is that it keeps happening. In my opinion, I feel like they should ban the the fans from coming on the court and really just really I know at the time they would put 10 seconds back on the clock, but before that and just did it and they would just rush on the court appropriately, but they don't do it anymore. So I feel like that where college basketball is headed is really just kind of in a really kind of a dark, scary place in my opinion. But I think that with college athletics and all that stuff just being crazy with those fans, I mean, the schools are getting fined a bunch of dollars, and for those fans just getting a bit out of hand and too crazy with them, whether it's you're storming the court or the field or any of that in college sports. But I remember there was a time that where you and Blake and I were at South Carolina as students together, where we were at a South Carolina women's basketball game, and we did slightly storm the court together, as you and me as students together.
A
The Parker
slight
Johnson, I think
court
it was.
storming,
So
like a
yeah,
small one.
yes, just a small version of it. So yeah, but I did and yes, I did do a couple of court stormings. And one of them happened to be at a volleyball match when I was in high school, and I think that was involved with my sister when she was playing on the team at that time, and I realized that court storming was great. Yeah, I actually stormed the court before when Caroline was on the high school volleyball team, my sister that is that and I happened to and it was a and I believe it was a state championship game that they were playing against. I believe it took place at Marietta High School. While I was there cheering her on as a student, I was happened to be one of those fans that did it, and yeah, I can tell you about storming the court and all that crazy stuff that happens with the fans.
So you've stormed the court before, but you're
Yes,
saying that you think now it's gotten to a point where it's gotten a bit too much at this point, which I understand. And like you said that you've stormed a court before, but now you
Mhm.
kind of are backtracking on that decision. So, fair play to you for going for changing your mind. And I think the big issue I think they have with it is the frequency with which it happens. I think back in the day, quote unquote, to say I feel like court storming happened a lot more infrequently than it does. It seems like once a week or multiple times a week even there's a court storming, whether, and in the case of the Wake Forest Duke game, it's obviously a big deal whenever Wake Forest beats Duke, but it's not as if Duke was like the top team in the country. They're still fighting to be the top team in the ACC with North Carolina. So I understand like they're still a top 10 ranked team and it's a big deal to beat Duke, but I feel like the frequency with which court storming is happening means that we're seeing more negative incidents with people running into people and stuff like that. And you can argue whether or not it's intentional. Some of the stuff that's gone on with Caitlin Clark and Filipowski, you can kind of, make your own judgment there. But I think personally, just the frequency is a bit too much. So if it's kind of has to be an all or nothing thing. So either they keep giving out fines to the universities for doing it, or the universities themselves. I mean, they should be able to police it to kind of put the restrictions on themselves. So but personally, I just think it happens too much nowadays. I think it should only be reserved for the minuscule instances where like a super small school beats a high ranked school, like a team that's like top 3 in the country kind of thing, if that makes sense.
It's going to be hard to stop it. I'm not sure if it's getting reported more now versus it increasing in frequency. It's tough to hold off the student bodies from getting to show their excitement and exuberation and seeing other people storm the court, not wanting to get in on some of the action. But it is a danger
I will say,
go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna say that South Carolina Gamecocks football game, big win. We're in the behind the hedges in the end zone, ready to go on the field. And they had doubled down and said no more storming the field. And they brought in the National Guard, and the South Carolina National Guard looked at this guy and he said, if you come over those hedges, we're going to tase you. Well, us being college kids didn't believe him. And we needed a sacrificial lamb to test out our hypothesis that they weren't serious. So we sent one guy over, kind of helped him a little bit, boosted him over, helped him a little bit. And they did tase him. And I'll tell you what, that was it. There was nobody else that crossed those hedges that day. A little bit aggressive with the punishment, but that stopped us from going over that day. I'll tell you what.
So you threw a sacrificial lamb over the hedges.
We helped him. I think he thought
so he volunteered.
I think he said no a few times as he was going over, but he volunteered. Correct. Yes. I'll tell you what, Jack. They don't call him the demon deacons for nothing. You know what I'm saying? Keyword demon over there hurting our big flip guy. I watched the replay tape. I'm not so sure Flip didn't put his long 7'1" long leg out and maybe do a little bit of trip action on one of those fans. I'm not so sure. Did anybody see this in replay? Is he just that long strided, or was he maybe trying to trip one of those guys?
Yeah, I don't think it was quite like as intentional maybe as it was made out to be on both sides. I think it was like somewhere in the middle where like he's trying to get out of the way, and it's just more so like all these people. I mean, you have to think about it from Filipowski's perspective, is like all these people are like rushing towards you and you're just trying to get out of the way, and they're all running as fast as they can. And to me, it does look like one of the Wake Forest kids is kind of like not I don't want to say he's like going for him, but he's not getting out of the way as efficiently as he could, in my opinion. So I think that's kind of what a lot of these people are doing is in the Caitlin Clark incident as well with Ohio State, where they're not like going out there and intentionally like bull rushing somebody, but they're not getting out of the way of the player, and they're kind of trying to blend in with the crowd to avoid detection and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean it's a bit of a thing, and we'll see what the conferences or the NCAA does and stuff like that. But yeah, ultimately I think it should be reserved for very special occasions. I think in that instance it was a bit unnecessary. So yeah, but I think Filipowski's okay, and I think Duke's gonna move on and try and get a couple wins here before before the big game against UNC in a few weeks, right, Jack?
That's right. That's right, Blake, and I'm sure sure we have a lot to be excited about for what should be another heavyweight of round two of one of the greatest basketball rivalries of all time. We're talking Bad Blood or um or um or really teams that they here we go right at it. That's really what makes college basketball great. Besides that, the next biggest rivalry, I think that's right there with Duke UNC is Kentucky Tennessee. That's also right up there on that list, and you're right. That's what makes the sport of college basketball great. And yeah, I think that the sport of college basketball really just is should be at a perfect good place right now when it comes to like on the court of how the teams really see how well the teams are going to do, whether it's heading into the conference tournaments of ACC or March Madness. Lots to be look forward to for what should be a exciting few weeks ahead.
Yeah. We're only slightly over 2 weeks until Selection Sunday.
It comes very quickly. The conference tournaments seem like they fly by in an instant.
Some of them end that day.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a very big rush once you get into
SEC ends on the 17th, St. Patty's Day, and that's the night of Selection Sunday.
That's right. Yeah. So the conference tournaments wrap up a few days before that, and obviously we've got a couple games left in the regular season conference matchups as well.
Yeah,
so, but
Duke's got to beat Virginia.
I was just gonna say, yeah, some you don't want to overlook any opponent, as we found out against the Demon Deacons last week. But
I heard Duke's got another one of their guards injured.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How's that going to affect? They've had a lot of. It seems like they have their share of injuries this year. Are they deep enough to get by?
Yeah. No, I think the good thing is that Filipowski is going to play. So he's going to be back for the game. He's not going to be sitting out anymore. So that should definitely leave the pressure. And I don't think Virginia is. Oh, they're a pretty good team. I mean, they got a decent record for not being a ranked team, to be honest. So it's definitely not one that you want to overlook. But the fact that it's at Cameron, I think will help.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously they put a beating on Louisville at home a few days ago as well. So I think they're pretty motivated to get into that game against UNC without any more blemishes on their record. They do have a tough one here in Raleigh against NC State before they go to UNC. So they're finishing out. Duke is on a pretty tough schedule in the ACC, obviously, and NC State's not a bad team. They're not as good as like a Virginia, but
it's always tough on Tobacco Road.
Exactly. Yeah. Anytime the three schools in the triangle play each other, you never want to underestimate that. But yeah, no, I think if they're setting themselves up, Duke and UNC for a big game there on March 9th. So that'll obviously lead into the tournament as well. But
well, I hope they're playing on the 16th at Capital One Arena.
I wouldn't put it past them, Uncle Mike. I wouldn't put it past them. You just something always strange kind of happens in those conference tournaments, doesn't it? In terms of somebody beating a different team. But I wouldn't be surprised if you get some of the big boys late in that tournament there in DC. So definitely one to keep an eye on, right, Jack?
That's right, Blake. And as we all know, in whether it's tournament games or March Madness and all, or any game in college basketball where you never know what you can predict or happen. Sometimes things just go your way, and sometimes they don't. That's just how college basketball and sports usually turns out, and it makes the sport great. And I think that's something you just don't know, and just that's just that's just how things are. That's just how it goes sometimes. So that's just something you gotta live with.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
What's our,
Blake Lumberger, I think we lost you for a second. I think you just had some bad connection wherever it is you're headed.
yeah, that was good. We can go on to our next topic now.
All right. So I think while we work on Blake Lumberger's audio issue, which we hope to get back, I do want to I do want to turn to our next topic that involves with baseball, and that is expansion, which me and Blake talked about. Something we talked about off the air is that the expansion of the 32 team of in the MLB. So what I wanted to get to is one of the cities that have the most potential if they ever have a shot of each city to get its 32 expansion team. So, but out of the list that has mentioned for one of the cities, I've heard Nashville, Salt Lake City, Charlotte, Portland, Montreal, and San Jose and Austin. Maybe Raleigh is in the mix. I doubt that, but you never know. But and and also Orlando, which and Mexico City, which nobody even talked about, but it's on that list. So Uncle Mike, I want to turn to you as the baseball expert. Do you think any of these cities have the shot of getting a Major League Baseball team?
Oh, I think they do. Um, and I'm not sure if Charlotte was on that list too, because
They are.
that would be. But I think that the three that would jump into mind would probably have the best shot would be Nashville, Mexico City, and Salt Lake City. Yeah, Salt Lake City, just because I don't think they don't have the closest other MLB team would be the Rockies, and they play over in Denver, and that's a good hike from Salt Lake City. If they want to expand and go international, then and certainly Mexico City would be a big draw. But if I was a betting person, I'd probably stick with Nashville, just because I think that would be a good. I don't think they would draw a whole lot away from some of the other major league cities.
There are a lot of Braves fans in Nashville, though.
Yeah, and that's okay. They can go away from being Braves fans.
Maybe they'll put an
I'm okay
American
with-
League team.
Yeah. Well, they'd have to. I mean, they're gonna. Major League Baseball probably would have to go with 2 expansion teams. They want to make things even up a little bit, but even with
Mike.
2, they recently when the Astros moved from the National League to the American League, they finally got the same number of teams in each league, and they balanced the divisions, and so if they add even 1 or 2 expansion teams, they're gonna lose balance in some division. Some division will have 1 more team than the other. And
Mike,
so,
how much do they love offense, right? In every sport, especially baseball, home runs. A couple of those cities on that list are high altitude cities, especially Mexico City. More home runs,
Yeah.
ball flies a little further. You think that has any impact on where we could go?
well, I think probably not. I mean, I think to just to travel to the Mexico City may may hinder that or not. You know, Speaking of offense, one of the big changes this year is they're implementing what I'll call the Trey Turner rule, first base. So you can now, the first base line for running goes from the infield grass to just beyond the foul line. So they're expanding where a runner can run just to put that play out. So what they're saying now is, grass is bad, dirt is good when you're running to first base. So I think that's pretty good. But yeah, getting back to expansion, Mexico City would be an interesting pick.
Mhm.
But we'll see. I think the major league will look long and hard on expansion and really, think about that. I would see probably a team move, an existing team move to one of those places before an expansion team comes in. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it will happen immediately. I think the reason the expansion talk kind of caught a lot of headlines is because I think Manfred was giving some sort of talk where he said that he was, I think he was leaving at the end of his contract, which isn't for another 4 or 5 years even. So probably won't see a team playing in the next 4 or 5 years on the field, but I think they definitely want to kind of get the ball rolling on expansion and see. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the Vegas situation pans out.
Mm-hmm.
Where it does seem like some of that momentum to get
Oakland East.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that's gone as swimmingly. I think they've announced plans to do it, but I think they hit a bit of a roadblock, right? Is that, do you know, Mike?
Yeah, I hadn't heard. Be honest, this week in DC has been all about stadiums in one way or the other.
What's the stadium situation in DC?
Well, the FedEx has dropped their naming so it's no longer going to be Fed Up Field or FedEx Field. So the Commanders are now looking for some other people to name the stadium, because right now it'll be called Commander Field.
And they don't have anybody lined up.
They don't have any. Well, they're trying to get somebody lined up. And the House yesterday passed the RFK revitalization bill. It goes to the Senate. What that simply means is that the district will have a 99-year rent-free lease on the 174 acres making up RFK, so they can tear down the old RFK, rebuild a stadium, and revitalize that area. So the district is now in the mix, or will be shortly with the mix, to negotiate with the Commanders to build a new stadium back in DC. And then the movement of Capital One Arena to Potomac Yards in Alexandria has hit a big snag in the Virginia legislature. That hasn't passed.
Okay.
Okay.
But
one to keep an eye on then.
Yeah. But I'm actually excited about the revitalization of the old RFK site.
That could be, yeah, that definitely would bring back a lot of fans would be excited about kind of.
Mm-hmm. They already have a metro station there. So they don't have to worry about metro because it's already there. Because when the Washington football team was playing there, that's how a lot of us went to the game, was on the metro.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think going back to the expansion talk, Jack, I was reading some of the headlines. Like I was saying, I think there's a possibility of if the A's move doesn't come to fruition, that maybe they would just put a new team in Vegas. It does seem like whether or not the A's end up moving there before they expand, it does seem like that's definitely going to be one of the cities that has a team, whether or not it's an expansion team or it's the A's. I guess will remain to be seen how much resistance and stuff they get. But I know they've announced plans to build to build a ballpark there, so I think that will happen. Similarly to the basketball as well, I would expect them to put a basketball team in that Vegas Knights arena soon as well. So that's definitely a city to keep an eye on. I don't think both Charlotte and Nashville would happen, because I do think there's a bit too much overlap there. I mean, if you are a pro baseball fan currently, like in those two markets, you would be probably a Braves fan. In Nashville, there are a lot of people from the Midwest as well, a lot of Cardinals and Cubs, because I was living there previously, and that's kind of my experience. So Charlotte's an interesting one. I just, in my head, it's just too close. It's just too close to Atlanta. I don't
Also,
feel like
where
it's
would it go?
yeah.
Where
No,
would it
yeah.
go in Charlotte?
I think the biggest thing is obviously the ballpark, which is why they've announced the ballpark in Vegas, because I mean that's really the key to getting a city from the league is to get the funding, get the approval, get the land for a stadium, because that's really the biggest hurdle to everything. So currently Nashville has a AAA team, and so does Charlotte, with stadiums. They're not MLB stadiums. I know a lot of AAA stadiums are
Yeah.
big, and they're like kind of like quote unquote MLB stadiums. The Nashville Sounds, it's a nice stadium and it's in a good location, but it's not an MLB stadium capacity wise. And Blake, I know the Knight Stadium is nice, but it's not like a huge capacity or anything, right?
No.
Yeah. Salt Lake City has a AAA team, the
Yeah.
Beehives,
Yeah.
but
So we're gonna promote the Beehives.
but I doubt if that is major league capacity as well.
Yeah, I mean the Salt Lake one's interesting. I don't really know. I mean, how much, obviously they have pro sports team there with the Jazz, so like there's a market for that. I don't really know much about the appetite for baseball in that part of the country, to be honest. But it's an interesting one. I mean, it wouldn't be maybe top of the list in terms of like metro population if you're going to compare it. I actually think and obviously I don't know how much the demand is there to bring back like the Montreal Expos, for example. That's something that's been talked about. Because population wise, Montreal is a big city, but obviously, like I don't speak French, first of all, so I don't know the what the demand is for the Expos to come back. I mean, I certainly, whenever I'm watching like old highlights, it seems like the Expos back in the early 90s, they had a really good team. But then once
What are the Expos?
Nationals, Washington Nationals.
But what are they? What is
so I think
Expo?
it was named after like exposition.
Yeah, they
like
had they had a World Exposition in 1967. and
No
that's where
way.
yeah, and
Wow.
that's where the term Expos came from. They were expansion team in '69. So right after the Expos. It had nothing to do with the they started playing in Olympic Stadium, but that stadium was built for the '76 Summer Olympics.
Right.
Do they have a mascot? What was the Expos mascot?
Probably just a big
Like,
baseball head with the Expos uniform.
Yeah.
Isn't that what the Nationals have as well?
No, man, we have a Screech, an eagle.
Well, you've also got like
okay.
you got like the
Yeah.
president, like the presidents as well.
we have
right?
we have the running presidents.
That's That's one of the best things in baseball.
Yeah,
but who's the baseball? The Mets. The Mets are the baseball.
Mets, Mr. Baseball and
Okay.
Mrs. Baseball. They have two.
Yeah,
Is Mets Metropolitan?
Yeah, the Metropolitans.
Yeah,
they were an
Metropolitans,
expansion team
Wow.
to placate in New York for losing both the Dodgers and the Giants. The Dodgers and the Giants both moved out to the West Coast and starting in the 58 season. Branch Rickey was smart enough to persuade the Giants to move with him.
Yeah, and that's the reason why the Mets colors are orange and blue, right? It's the colors of
Yeah,
the
it was
Dodgers
like-
and Giants, the former teams in that
Well,
area.
yeah, and the font for the NY for the Mets was the same font for the New York Giants.
Right, the orange lettering,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, interesting how if you, particularly a league like MLB, you can kind of trace back the history so long and kind of see how it all interconnects. That's a
Yeah.
good example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you Googled Montreal Expos mascot, by the way, there's a big orange fluffy guy named Youppi, who I think is also the
Youppi.
mascot for the Canadians
No
as
way.
well.
No
So
way.
he's maybe he's still employed by the Canadians because they're obviously still around. So
Well,
But-
yeah, they got the Alouettes for football, so
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if like what the stadium situation is. Maybe that's why they wouldn't bring back the Expos because they would still have to play at the old stadium or something. But yeah, from a nostalgia perspective, it'd be fun to see the Expos brought back, similar to like how the NBA could bring back maybe like the Sonics or something. But I mean, we went to the arena in Seattle and they've obviously got a more ready available place to play. I don't know if like where the Expos would play if they come back. So I think keep an eye on stadium talk if you want to really know where the movement is in terms of this expansion. That's really the biggest hurdle to cross is getting a stadium built. I don't think any of the proposed sites have a current stadium, which is why I don't think we'll see any movement on that in a while. So obviously, you can't build a ballpark in a day, right? So,
yeah.
but yeah, it's fun speculation though.
Yeah. It is interesting there. The season is going to open up in South Korea with the
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
the Padres and the Padres and the Dodgers playing in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And then you still have the Mets and the Phillies going for a 2-game series in London in June.
Yep.
So they're still, pushing, trying to get that international aspect into the, getting people excited about baseball.
And
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Go ahead, Jack.
And don't forget, Mike, they're also playing a game at the Rick Case field in Alabama.
Yeah,
this
that would
summer.
be great. I'd love to go to that game. The oldest professional baseball stadium in
So is
the
that
US.
similar to like the Field of Dreams game they've been doing the past couple of years?
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I mean, it's obviously going to be a homage to the old, the old Negro leagues, but I think they're going to start up the Field of Dreams again this summer because they were renovating that stadium out there in Iowa.
Right.
That's why they didn't play it last year.
You got to plant some more corn.
You got to plant a lot more corn.
That's cool. I like stuff like that. I think just as we're talking about, the baseball season starting. I think like stuff like that where they kind of do something a bit different and experiment with the game and the broadcasts and stuff would be a welcome addition to particularly a sport like baseball that has so many games. I feel like more experimentation in terms of locations, TV broadcasts, etc., uniforms is always welcome from my perspective, given you've got so many games to mess around with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of international play, did you see Ohtani's first game, a spring training game with the Dodgers, Uncle Mike? He hit a home run.
Yeah, no, I saw he hit a home run. I saw the highlights of that, and then Yamamoto had a good outing, two innings, shutout. He gave up one single, but man, I think he had like three strikeouts.
Yep.
And which was a good start. Sale had a good game the other day for the Braves. 4 Ks against Pittsburgh.
You definitely have to be careful not to get too excited in late February, early March, right? But
yeah,
and obviously I'm not a Dodgers fan. I'm a fan of their NL rivals, but I mean, it's promising to see.
Yeah.
I think it'll just be a matter of keeping Ohtani healthy. Obviously, he's not going to pitch
Mhm.
anytime soon, but
Yeah.
he'll be a danger in that DH spot or wherever they end
Yeah.
up putting him. And Yamamoto seems like a good pickup as well. So
Yeah. Well,
um,
the Nationals game today, they went back-to-back jacks. First two hitters, Lane Thomas and then James Wood, went back
And
to
don't forget
back.
about Joey Gallo.
Joey Gallo.
Yeah, by far, I think one of their star players on the roster of your team, I think, to watch.
Yeah.
wait,
No,
Gallo's a national?
Yep.
Ah,
Yeah, we
very
picked
interesting.
we picked him up.
Yeah, I'm looking at the. I don't
We
think
picked him up so he has a good first half of the season, so we can deal him at the trade deadline.
Well, yeah, he's. It didn't seem like he cut the mustard in the Bronx for sure. So maybe he
Mm-mm.
thrives in maybe a more lower pressure situation. So
Yeah.
it could be a nice trade chip. Yeah, it's kind of a decent little gamble there. It's fair. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. James Wood is hit now 3 home runs in the spring. He was a minor league player last year. He may have started in AAA, but he was one of the people we picked up with the Soto trade to the Padres.
Right.
And CJ Abrams being another one that we got from that trade with the Padres, who is going to continue to be our starting second baseman.
Interesting. Yeah, that would be one to keep an eye on for sure. Yeah, I think from a Braves perspective, we just kind of want to see some of the new additions slotting in.
But Braves got a prospect that might be your 5th starter that's throwing the heck out of the ball.
Is that
Smith?
I have to look at the
Smith Chalmers.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's good to get some of those guys.
Yeah.
But a bit of a time, yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me, the new saying in the Nationals dugout, not that I mean in their locker room this year, is nobody cares how fast you throw ball 4.
It's true. It's very true.
Guys, speaking of sayings, Jackson, if you know anybody at Good God Sports in the C-suite level that can maybe get some shirts printed out really quick, I think if we can make some shirts in support of Duke that say "Don't trip, flip," and get those printed out before the Carolina game, I think we could get some sales, get some things moving. What do you think, Jack?
I love it. Why don't we all
Don't trip, flip.
Why don't we all join in together?
I like it. Okay. Just talk to the C-suite people at Good God Sports and see if we can get the ball rolling.
Well,
I got you.
yeah, we
Awesome.
can we can pitch that to the brass. What else? You got any more topics, Jack?
Yes. Yes. Before I move on, I do want to get a correction on what I just said about the game in Alabama, Birmingham. That is. It's actually called Rick Wood Field. And who's playing in that game, you ask? The St. Louis Cardinals against the San Francisco Giants. In case you guys are wondering.
All right.
Good to know. Good to know. Thank you.
I'll go with the Cardinals. The Giants don't have any pitching.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and in fact, speaking of the Cardinals, they have traded one of their pitchers, one of their players from the Giants of the name of Brandon Crawford, who played his long tenure with the Giants, now has been traded to the Cardinals. So that's something that's another baseball thing I just wanted to just throw it at you, that Brandon Crawford now a Cardinal. That's also one of the baseball topics I had to bring in for the offseason. So something to just to just memorize and just and always keep in mind from any additional offseason moves in the in the offseason of Major League Baseball.
Yeah. The Giants lost two of their starting pitchers recently in spring training. They're injured, so they're going to be shopping for trying to land either Montgomery or Snell. So, and the Cubbies just signed Bellinger.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, they finally were able to agree on a deal there.
80 million over the 3 years.
Interesting to see what they've certainly they're starting to kind of try to build a team. They obviously signed Dansby to a big deal, and they've got Bellinger. So you would expect them to make some sort of leap eventually, given the kind of the money they're dishing out, right?
Yeah, they got a good fielding second baseman as well. So I would expect the Cubs not to. Well, I expect the Cubs to be a good defensive team.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how much defense gets you nowadays, though, in this league, huh?
Well, a lot more balls are going to be hit. So
You got to hit some dingers.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. We'll have to check back in closer to the opening day, and maybe we'll do some MLB predictions, Jackson, closer to the start of the season.
The season opens up on Thursday, March 28th.
There you go. Not too far away.
Not too far. Our first
Month's
home game
time
is Monday, April 1st.
Mm.
We open up against the Pirates.
The Buccos. Yeah, it should be a good. That could be a nice little W there to open up. They're not up to much.
Are you fooling us, Mike? Or are you being serious?
I'm being serious.
Isn't that April Fool's Day on the 1st?
It is.
Okay.
We're playing the Bucks, but Pittsburgh always does well in April.
Okay.
Luckily, the first game's in March. Oh wait, no, you said it was April 1st, right?
But we open up on the road. We open up on the road open up on the road in Cincinnati against the Reds.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, looking forward to the season now, right, Jack?
Yeah, should be a lot of fun.
What's our next?
Stamford Cruz is no joke. So that's of course you got something to really looking forward to and should be excited about. So I'm sure we got a lot of topics to dive into for another time, but one of those I actually want to get to very quick before I move on is how will the game affect with the pitch clock entering in year 2, which I find fascinating and interesting to see how it plays out and goes for the season going forward for this season and maybe for the future. So something I always have something in mind for what I've always thought about.
Well, they're making 2 tweaks to the pitching game in baseball. They've cut the number of mound visits from 5 to 4. And when a runner's on base, the pitcher would have 20 seconds. That's now down to 18 seconds to try to cut out a little bit more. And actually, there's a third thing that they've done. When the pitcher has the ball back in his glove, the clock starts. He doesn't have to be on the mound yet. What that does is prevents a pitcher from stalling, from walking around the mound and then getting up onto the mound. So the Max Scherzer stalking around the mound, they won't be able to do things like that to slow down the game. So that's kind of interesting.
Mike, is this killing your baseball traditionalists, or are all these every year trying to speed it up a little more? Is this killing these guys?
It may be, but I guess I was always kind of a traditionalist myself. But if this gets more people interested in the game, I'm all for it. And if it speeds it up, I'm all for it. When you're sitting in the stands, the game just kind of drags, especially from inning 7 on in a tight game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it becomes a snooze fest, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody's going to watch it. So getting some of these rules to put in more offense and speed up the game, I'm all for it.
Okay.
Another thing that they may be experimenting in, and I think they've tabled it for now, but it may come back, is not allowing a fielder to block a base. When someone's trying to steal it, to no more blocking a base. But I think that's been tabled for now. But that would certainly help speed up, or not speed up the game, but make it more interesting with a lot more stolen bases and such. Because last year they changed the base to a pizza box. It went from 15 inches to 18 inches. So, but yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, in my opinion, the pace of play changes have been a great thing. I think they're not affecting really the anything to do with like the strategy or the game. You're just making the pace of play better, and some of the older traditional pitchers will be a bit I guess irritated by a few of the changes, but I think overall for the product it's been a good thing. So yeah, hopefully they continue to kind of tweak that and continue it. But I think overall, if you ask people from the league, they would say the same thing. I think it's been a success. So yeah, I'm hoping they keep making these positive changes going forward into this season. What's our
All right,
next topic we
Blake.
can finish up with here, Jack?
Yes,
Huh?
let's finish up here. Almost running out of time or show, but I want to get into my last final topic of our on the show is that have any of you have any of you kept up or ever followed or tuned in to any of the to any of it any of it have any of you have followed or tuned in to any of the NFL scouting combine lately? I
Yeah,
know
so I've watched a little bit of the coverage. I know it's being covered extensively by the NFL Network and a little bit on ESPN as well. And I think the section of the combine that will get a lot of interest, and rightfully so, is when the quarterbacks go and do their drills, because and I'm sure we'll preview the NFL draft in a few weeks once we get closer and closer to that date. But this draft in particular is going to be quarterback heavy. We got a lot of teams at the top of the rankings either looking to trade their quarterback or draft a quarterback, kind of in that top range. So and I don't know if confirmed who's doing what drills, who's throwing, who's running, etc. But if you remember last year in the combine, a player like Anthony Richardson's stock skyrocketed after an impressive athletic performance at the combine. So it's definitely worth keeping an eye on to see kind of who pops where. And I think Heisman winner Jaden Daniels, for sure, he's known for his athleticism being one of his biggest strengths. So you would expect him to have a strong combine showing and perhaps win some scouts over.
Blake, the alumni, let me ask you, of us being former students at that school, where do you think Spencer Lauer is going to land for a potential? I'm not gonna look ahead of myself, but where do you think Spencer Rattler is going to be? Would be the perfect fit for a potential draft landing spot?
XFL,
Some NFL draft.
That's a good question, Jack. You know, I didn't think he was going to be as hyped up as he is. He seems to have a little bit of a couple of people thinking he might do pretty well in the draft. Which is, you know, it's an interesting point when a team doesn't necessarily do great, but you still get a pretty good hype as a quarterback. I don't know, man. Give him to the Panthers. You know, can't go wrong. You know, little another undersized quarterback to the Panthers. We'll take as many as you can give us.
Yeah, I think there'll be quite a few guys in this draft / and this combine as well that
Yeah.
might be worth taking a flyer on. It'd be interesting to see how some of the more experienced. I was just watching some NFL talk about Michael Penix, for example, who's an older quarterback. Got the guy from Notre Dame, Hartman, who played a couple years at Wake Forest previously, who are perhaps some of these teams that might draft an older, more experienced quarterback just to see if they impress in camp. So it's going to be a big draft for quarterbacks, as they usually are, obviously. But this year in particular, we're going to see a lot of whiffs and a lot of successes. I mean, maybe not. You never really know who's gonna succeed, but there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks drafted, basically.
I'm looking forward to it. Commanders got the 2nd overall pick. So
listen, may the odds be in your favor, because
we're either going to get Jaden Daniels, or we're going to get May. So
right.
You know, I'm fine.
So we'll see if maybe Daniels or May, what they can do with the combine, if that dissuades or persuades any of the scouts. But I mentioned previously, the draft, it's a bit of a crapshoot. So the odds of Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels all panning out to be Pro Bowl level quarterbacks is very small percentage, close to 0, right?
Yeah.
So maybe being in that two spot, right? Washington is.
Yeah, Washington's number in the 2 spot. Bears maybe trading Fields to get you know.
Yeah, and I think that's probably worth discussing as well, Jackson. I know there's been some speculation about the Bears want to trade Justin Fields before the draft, so that would give them a couple weeks here. Have you heard anything about any landing spots for Fields, Jack?
So far what everybody's talking about, the latest that I've heard is the Falcons. Other than that, I haven't heard any other rumors of other teams of trading him up for a spot for in that position. But so far I haven't heard any other teams jumping into the conversation from the very latest that I've got from one of my sources so far.
I've heard some speculation about Pittsburgh. What do you guys think of that?
Well, I don't know that for sure, but here's what I've
Kirk Cousins may go to Pittsburgh.
Well, I don't know about that, but I have heard some talks.
What, for a sandwich or to play?
Well, no. Actually, this might be true, but there's also this rumor that I keep hearing about, everyone's talking about, that I have heard Russell Wilson could have some talks to play to get traded to the Steelers as their next quarterback. I heard a lot about on different sports talk shows. What are your guys' thoughts on that for Wilson being a Steeler? Will he fit better for this offense under new head coach Arthur Smith? Offensive coordinator.
Okay. OC, yeah. Well, it certainly seems like Sean Payton gave up on him throughout in the middle of last year in Denver. So it does seem like he needs a new landing spot, but I think it will depend on who Denver gets in to replace Wilson, whether or not they just decide to cut bait and move on. But given the amount of equity that they've invested in Sean Payton, I think whatever he decides to do at the quarterback position, they'll go with. So if that means trading Wilson, then so be it. I don't know I'm assuming his contract situation would have to be a bit murky, whereas Fields might be able to get him on a better deal, but given his younger age and stuff like that. So if I'm like a Falcons fan, I'd much rather trade for Fields than Wilson. I think fitting with the age profile with the rest of the team, whereas Pittsburgh, talk me into Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh. I mean, I think maybe he wouldn't have to do a whole, like the defense would kind of carry the load there. And maybe what Mike Tomlin could design an offense that wouldn't ask him to do much, but it does seem like they want to ride Kenny Pickett's situation to its conclusion, whether that means he wins the job or he ends up being more of a backup or a fringe NFL player. My guess is the latter, but we'll see. There's a lot of quarterback situation in the league that I think, typically a lot of these moves happen in and around the draft, right? So we'll have to just kind of listen to some of the speculation over the next couple of weeks and then see what happens coming up into the draft. By the way, where's the draft this year, Jack?
Detroit.
It is in the Motor City of Detroit.
The Motor City. Okay, so we will have to see what kind of speculation and moves happen up until the big event in Motor City. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of transactions and all kinds of NFL gossip before then, right?
Get your motor running.
Probably have some good live music. I know I went to the draft when I was in Nashville and they had plenty of good music. So maybe Detroit can host. You wouldn't necessarily think of Detroit as hosting big events, and they had a Super Bowl back in the day. But hey, listen, good for them. They're having a bit of a renaissance with the Lions. Some of the crowds they had during the playoffs there were pretty elite. So hey, good for the Detroit football fans, man. They need something, they need some victory. So I'm all for it. All right, Jack.
Well, all right, Blake.
Get us out of here.
Hopefully they can. Hopefully they can find a way to party and get the atmosphere going for the host city months from now. Hopefully things will turn out in a better way for the hometown fans or for NFL fans for better to have a great time, which is what they're here for as expected. Blake, Mike, BL Weinberger, great to be with you guys. We'll talk to you again next week, and hopefully, as you mentioned on our show, we will do a preview of all the 30 MLB teams we'll break down each team and we'll preview once opening day starts to get closer. We will get into all that at another time on a later date. We will talk more about that another time here on Good Guy Sports. Mike, Blake, Via Weinberger, great to be with you. We will talk to you again. You guys, Sports Jack Durkee signing off. Great to be with you guys. Have a great night and great to have all you guys on.
Likewise,
All right.
Jack. See you guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Jackson. All right. Happy Leap Day.
Happy
Yes.
Leap Day.
Yeah.
See you in 4 years.